All right.
So if anybody has any questions throughout, just unmute yourself and yell out or raise your hand, and I'll be checking in the chat as well.
Yeah, that would be
Awesome.
great. That would be great.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for coming on and doing this. Really appreciate it. Your expertise is definitely a valuable resource at the office. So, you know, it's awesome to have you on and sharing your knowledge with us.
Well, you're very welcome. And of course, you know, I'm kind of passionate when these shifts happen. I have some of my best years in a shifting market. And because it really takes out true challenge and expertise with our clients, because most often I find like a bit of an order taker during these boom markets, where it's hard for the client to see value in your services. This is an opportunity for people to actually show their expertise and thrive in a declining market. How do you like that one? Thrive in a declining market.
That's beautiful. We'll
That's got to excite a lot of us, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's start with what we're going to try and accomplish today is we're going to have some discussion around understanding how the current and future market conditions will affect us, how it's going to affect our clients, how it's going to affect us personally. And I think that's probably on a lot of people's mind is, how do I coach my client and what do I do in this shifting market? Now it's interesting, I think for, do we have people from the Barrie office here, Angelique?
We
or
may
mostly
have.
from Advantage?
Let me just check and see. Looks like we have a mix, actually. There are some people from the Barrie market as well.
So I guess because I understand in Barrie, they have not experienced a shift yet. Would that be correct?
It's starting to slowly make a shift, but not as much as down there. Usually it starts down in your area first.
Okay, great. So with a shift, we now have to we have to actually adjust the way we were doing business. And for all those who were just learning how to do business, now we're going to ask you to adjust that way of doing business, just to complicate things, because we're going to have new market demands, we're going to have new challenges, and we're going to have to counsel our clients on how to be, how to pivot, in this market. Because right now, some of us are seeing a lot of disappointed sellers whose homes were selling in the last couple of weeks. So we're going to talk a little bit about designing and implementing new business systems that will increase our productivity and, the big thing, improve our customer experience. I can say for myself, the last couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, I've had, even though I've achieved really great results, I've got unhappy customers. Great results, unhappy customers. Go figure, will you? It's a crazy business we're in. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about understanding the market. And so I'd like, if you could, do we have a raise hand option here in our Zoom, Angelique? And do we?
If somebody wants to raise their hand, if you go to reactions and click on that, you'll see the raise hand pop up at the bottom below the emojis.
Okay. So is there, and because I can't see it now, are you able to see everybody's hands, Angelique?
Hopefully.
Okay.
If not, I think Tristan might be able to see them come up on her screen.
Yeah. So is there anybody right now that does not understand the market we're in? Okay, I see Deb Bennett's got her hand up.
Yep, there's a couple.
Okay,
I'm not too sure.
All right, so Deb, let's start with you, Deb. So what is it about the market you don't understand right now?
So pricing. So with sellers and with buyers, but let's look at buyers. So looking at a house right now that's listed at 849 with an offer date. I've been checking. They've only had 5 showings all week. But of course, it only takes one high offer to shoot it out of the market. It looks like the value is around 925, but it's really hard to say, like, is it going to go for 925 or is it going to go for 975? It's hard to figure because some things are selling in multiple offers well over asking, and some things are not getting offers.
So would you say it sounds to me like you do understand the market, but you're not sure how to coach people around it. Would that be more accurate?
That's fair, Mike. That's fair.
Great. Well, the good news, Deb, we're going to cover that moving into the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll take one more question. Leah, you have a question?
Mine was similar to Deb's, just pricing and buyers and helping them understand, because some of these prices that houses are going for in Toronto are wild and you can't support.
Yeah, so we're back to, I think we understand the market. I think the big key here is how do we communicate that to our clients? That's probably the big thing we're looking at. Okay, great. All right, so here's the big thing that I've experienced is reshaping my mindset. So my mindset over the last 2 or 3 weeks has been, I don't know whether, like, I am so stressed. So it's so unusual for me to get a super good price for a client, and I've really let them down. Because unfortunately for me, I take things personally, even though I know I shouldn't. So what I have been really working hard, I have a coach called a life coach. And so right now I am working on expectations and concern, because I am lost in the world of concern for my clients and myself, and it's having me not be as effective as I can be out there, both at home and with my clientele. So we're going to talk a little bit more about reshaping our mindset, because our mindset is the most important tool that we'll take forward in this new market. I'm sure everybody would agree. Accountability. Oh, here's a good one. All right. So maybe you can do and Deb, maybe you and Leah can take your hands down, because we've answered your question. And just by a show of hands, how many people have an accountability system in place, by a show of hands?
I think so far people are either looking for the raise hand button or not many.
Yeah, I suspect the latter. It's, reactions at the bottom of your screen. So that is where in life, that's going to be.
Hand.
Sorry, pardon me?
Oh, I found it.
Atta girl, Laura. All right. Okay. Because I thought Laura for sure has got to have some. Now, Laura, just I asked you.
I can't even change my name, Mike, so I can't raise my hand either.
Would you prefer I called you Shannon? Laura,
That's
tell
right.
us what is your accountability system?
Yeah, so part of our accountability is on our team, we make calls collectively at a given time during the week, several times during the week. And then we keep a track of all the calls that we've made. And we set windows of time, about 6-week increments. And at the end of 6, when we have a scoring system for the number of calls we make, the number of appointments, the number of CMAs. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, the person with the lowest point total has to buy lunch for the other people in the group. And so one of my team members, you can see these lovely flowers, which you probably thought came from somebody, romantic. They didn't. They actually came from the team member who lost last month, bought lunch, and then as an added bonus bought flowers. So that's our way of keeping accountable in terms of making calls, because none of us really love to do it, but it's something that when we do it helps our business.
So that's awesome. It sounds like it's a fun, and it's not like a terrible penalty. And how does that accountability system working for you and your team?
It's great. Since we implemented it, I think we've been far more consistent in terms of making the calls. There was a little bit of a learning curve in terms of people making sure they had blocked that time in their schedule, and didn't have, home inspections or different things put over top of it. But we've gotten to a point now where we all honor the time, and we really, I know Barb talks a lot about this book, Atomic Habits. But we've been reading it as a team, and one of the methods in there talks about don't try to do everything to the nth degree. Just start small. So that was really one of our keys to success. Is we didn't make it 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. That would have felt too daunting for everybody. So we kept it into timeframes that people felt comfortable with, an hour and a half, and certain times during the week. And it's proving to be very successful.
And what does that do for your mindset?
It's great. I mean, mindset is obviously, I think, as you've alluded to, Mike, it's the biggest thing, and it really is a constant battle for all of us, right? Getting over that little challenges that we put in our own way. And yet I think, for me, even who, sometimes I'll feel like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I don't have time to make these calls right now. Because I'm accountable to the team, I force myself to get over that mental hurdle of, I don't have time to do this. So for me, it's been good to keep my mindset focused on, these root activities are important.
Thank you. That is awesome. An example of both mindset and accountability, and actually sounds like it's a little bit of fun as well.
Well, what is life without fun, Mike? Come on.
Isn't that what
I
it's
think you
all
may
about?
have had a bit of fun in your 35 years of selling real estate.
Yeah, but there's lots of time in this business when I'm not having fun.
True. I can also talk about those times.
And when I'm not having fun, I'm not as effective. I'm not as good. I'm not as great a husband. I'm not as good of, so that's where I'm leading is, like this doesn't have to be heavy and significant, right? We get heavy and significant, right? So I'd like everybody to write down, how are you going to what are you going to put in place to mind your mindset? So I want everybody to write that question, and that'll be your homework for probably the next shift system, that I do as we get into the shift more so, because you've got to spend some time every day working on your mindset. So I want everybody to write that down to what they do. Some people might take a walk for their mindset. Some people may have faith. Some may maybe do yoga. Some read, what's it called? Atomic
Habits.
Yeah. So that so I want everybody to be really aware what systems do you have in place for your mindset? Because everything that's going to lead to your success is systems. How many times have we heard systems through Gary Keller's? How many times? Thousands of times? So systems carry you through everything. All right, here's the next best one. Lead generation. All right. So lead generation is, for anybody had the chance to see John Ferber, when he talked about the shift, his feeling was, and he probably gets this from Gary Keller, that lead generation will take you through any market. I'm sure everybody would agree. So again, with accountability, what have you committed? How many hours a week have you committed to doing lead generation? And then, of course, as you set the lead generation, who is holding you accountable? So these are a couple things you should be making notes of right now, is how much lead generation am I doing a week, and who's holding me accountable, and analyzing those figures. Because it's one to track them, but who's coaching you on how effective these systems are? So, we're going to look to create systems throughout this chat over the next 45 minutes. Scripts and dialogues. Okay. How many people, by a show of hands, work on their scripts at least once a week on their scripts and dialogues? By show of hands. Okay.
We do have a few more hands.
Yeah.
Yep, a few more hands popping up, which is great.
All right. So that's great. So with scripts and dialogues, probably what all this leads to is, does everybody have a weekly schedule where their schedule for the entire week from Monday to Sunday is mapped out? I would call that a perfect week, or a work week for success, which would, I always start mine with my personal time, my me time. I actually do have me time and family time are pretty neck and neck. All right. Because I think it's really important. So having a weekly schedule that you're going to share with your new accountability partner is also going to be a step in being successful. What I call predictable success. How many people so to me, I think what everybody wants to have is predictable success. So the question is, what systems you put in to have predictable success? Scripts and dialogues, weekly schedule, accountability. We're going to talk more as we move forward in the listing process. We now, I'm like working on, and Candace and Elizabeth could probably say that we are changing our listing presentation monthly to fit to new market conditions. So now it's a matter of like anticipating new objections. How do we manage our, like my biggest fear is, how do I go in a listing presentation that I'm competing on, and what are the other agents saying? You know, it's always something that goes through my head. So how can I effectively, because really what they are is they want you to tell the truth. They want you to be authentic. So what is it how do you now present, instead of a week from now going, sorry, I'll give you an example. Candace was just on our listing on Monarch Park. We had 39 showings. And at the end of the week, we had possible bully offers coming. And at the end of the week, we had one offer. Do you know what kind of shock that is to a seller? It's hard to pick up the pieces from there. But, you know, due to Candace's experience and a lot of the systems that she had put in place, we were able to get it sold and have the client be happy at the end of the day. Okay, determining price.
Mike, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Or did you want to wait until you've gone through all this?
Laura, go ahead and shoot.
Okay. I just have a question about you saying that you've changed your listing presentation every month. Does that mean that you're just sort of changing the conversation that you're having in terms of, here's what we're seeing in the market, and here's you know, sort of the Monarch Park story, for example, like this is how much a market shifts, is we were anticipating this, and, you know, the market has been shifting. And so this is what actually ended up happening. Like, is that how you're adjusting what you're saying to the seller, or are you changing something else?
Changing my dialogue. I'm changing my pricing strategies. Because I track, I also track what my percent, like, on how many listings I go out on, and what is my closing ratio, like how many of those are I'm getting. And I found at one part I was only getting 50%, which I thought was a poor average. So what I did is I actually analyzed my listing presentation, bounced a lot of things off Elizabeth, and kind of looked. I also looked at, like, I have a tendency when I lose one to ask them what would, in a really nice, way. I appreciate you interviewing me, but what were some of the things? So I'm able to tweak my presentation based on their feedback.
Right.
And I was losing some based on the fact that I was actually giving too low an asking price. I thought that they would just take my word for it, that they would look at all my examples of this was the thing to do, without really checking with them to see how they felt about it.
Right.
And so I lost 2 or 3 just based on the way I was pricing my listings. And so now I start so I changed my scripts and dialogue and asked them, what do you think about, the way we're pricing homes, and what's your thoughts on this? And what I found is, I had one yesterday, they said, Mike, we're not going to go that lower the price route. We had a bad experience, so now I'm getting into a little bit more, like at that point more. And then, so once I sort of tweaked my presentation, did an analysis, I went from 50% to like 85%, which I was happy with.
For sure. That's a good percentage.
Yeah. So it's like, if I'm not getting at least that, what is it? What am I missing? What's missing in my presentation?
So, sorry, would you be fair to say then it was because you were asking the seller more questions?
Yeah, I would say, you know what? I was probably more dictating to them than I was involving them with the process and really finding out what they, how they were thinking about everything.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so probably more scripts and dialogue, but definitely was still tweaking my marking, my listing presentation. There was a lot of tweaks in that as well.
And at some point, Mike, will you do, like, for instance, like just for us today, a little script dialogue on, let's say you were to go into a listing appointment tomorrow, given present day market situation, what you would be saying about what is going on, like an example.
Yeah.
Okay.
And remind, if I don't cover it, remind me to cover that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so determining price, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And negotiations, of course, because negotiations now are, oh man, we are now negotiating. Okay, so we're going to talk first of all now about the media and how does media affect our business. So I'd like a few volunteers, if you can put your hand up, and if I can't see it, forever my co-host here can see it. I'd like someone to volunteer what their understanding of how the media affects the real estate business.
Well, we have a couple of hands up. They could have been left up from before, but do you want to volunteer them?
Well,
hey, Mike, I can jump in here if you want.
Okay, Barb.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Barb.
I think the media plays a massive role in the psychology of buyers and sellers, big time. I think that they can really manipulate and dictate what happens sometimes.
Yeah, and would that be in a good way or a bad way, Barb?
Well, I guess it can be both. But for example, when they start saying things like, 2017 was a really good example when the government came out with the 16-point fair housing plan or whatever it is. And then they, talked about how they're trying to cool the market, and it overnight happened. Like the media just came out gangbusters with that, and it worked.
Great. Now, and does anybody else have a different take on media and how it affects the real estate market? Okay, Salima. So Salima, if you can come off mute. So it looks like maybe Salima has maybe gone to the bathroom or having trouble unmuting herself.
Sorry, I'm here. I just had a crying baby with me, so.
Oh, okay. Thanks for explaining that. Is this still a good time for you to share?
Yes, sorry, I just missed the last part here.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
How do you think the media affects real estate?
Oh, I would say definitely positive and negative. A lot of times I would say it's negative, just because what they're saying, and from what I hear from all the experienced agents that I see is that a lot of times it's negative because they're kind of like behind on whatever's going on in the market, right? So that's what I feel like. That's what happens a lot of times.
Terrific. All right. Now, do you think the media, now, because we're realtors, and I like both your answers, I thought that was good. And I like that opinion as well.
Mhm.
So, because there are some sellers that are crying out there, so I get that too. So what I do is I use the media as an asset to my listing presentation. So I have these articles in my listing presentation. Now, the difference I do now going into scripts and dialogue is now I'm going to start asking the sellers way more questions than I ever asked them before. So now I'm going to say to the seller, do you know what's happening in the real estate market right now? And I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let them talk. Because what I found is some are very aware, right? And if they are aware, it kind of shapes my listing presentation. So they sort of aware. Some are not aware. They still think the market is booming. Much like, I don't know if you're also aware that I would say at least 40 to 50% of the realtors out there are not aware that we're a shift in the market. Does that make sense? Just nod your head up and down.
Yes.
No, it doesn't make any sense to me, Mike. So we have sold a number of homes recently where the agent is unaware that there's a shift downwards in the market because they have lost out on the last 5 or 6 listings and they've already got their clients prepared to pay a big price. So there's something to be said for that. So one thing you want to definitely do is start picking your brains and when if they're saying, yeah, I've seen it, and then ask them, well, you want to now go 3 levels deep in your questions. So they said, yeah, we have seen a shift in the market. And then you want to ask them, how do you think it's going to affect real estate? How do you think it's going to affect, your home? Because you want to get into a much deeper you want to get into an understanding of how the clients are really feeling. Because quite often we don't know how they're feeling till it's offer day and it's too late to react and we can't do anything yet. And what I'm finding is that people get angry and upset because we don't know their expectations. And secondly, we haven't prepared them. We haven't prepared them for maybe we don't have any offers. So that's where the media comes into effect. You also want to listen to them. So they might go, it's a bunch, I don't believe the media. And you understand the media is always 3 or 4 weeks behind what we already know. You get that, right? Already 3 or 4 weeks behind what we know. So, okay, so we're going to move on to our next slide. So, yeah, okay, great.
Sorry, me again. How do you answer when you ask them the question, do you know what's happening in the market right now? And their answer is, not correct, right? Their answer is, they think that the market is still crazy strong and everybody's getting 20 offers on their house. How are you answering that?
First of all, I'd go, yeah, I totally see what you're saying. I totally get where you're coming from. I said, would you mind if I shared a couple of recent experiences? And they go, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I talked to them about how I had a sale out in West Hill, and I spoke to the sort of the top, key agents out there that were doing a lot of the business. And they were telling me, like, they were asking me how many showings I've got. They were telling me how they had their home up for sale and that they got way less than what a home and, got a month from, and they were really caught off guard. So I tend to share a lot of experiences of what's going on out there. Now, if I had some, like what my plan is now is to start comparing what's happened in April, I don't know, with the first two, like I'm going to start to go online a little bit to figure out if I can actually, like, if I can get a graph, something like this to show the dips. I'd rather it come from a third party than, so I tend to share stories on what's happened, and we're getting a lot of them right now. So, and what we're finding are people are still getting lucky. I don't think price has been affected, but what I would do is I start sharing some experiences, or I start talking about when we list homes, how all the agents now are banding together for our client success. And we're now having to do things like we now call every agent up during the week while they offer themselves so we can get ahead of things. So I kind of just leave that, I don't argue with them ever, but I always, give them something to think about. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, but that's where I'm going right now.
Thanks.
And then, also what comes into play is, of course, what do you think is the value of your home? Where do you think your home's going to shake out? It's really important for me to get that, right? And the other people, of course, the other big thing is I have to know like right now, we're going to have to know our client's motivation like we've never known before. We've got to know now, Laura, do you actually have to move? Are you 100% committed to moving? That's what we need to find out. Because the days of, like before, we were putting up homes up and it was like, be nice to move. If I got this dollar, I'd move. Well, this is what we got to be a little bit careful of now, because now we got to start searching for people that are moving no matter what. That's the people we want to be looking for. Okay, so now when you look at the slide, just a couple of notes. If you want to peer, like I think they also, what people are going to be looking for in this market is expertise. So if you were to analyze this chart right now, some of the notes I made is if you look at January, February, look at January, February of 2020. There's $100,000 difference in those 2 months. Isn't that unbelievable? In 1 month, there's $100,000 difference, right? And then March, it held in March. And look what happened in April. It dropped 100,000. So this is going to impress on your client's timing and to lean on you to what is the best timing. This is where you're going to get the areas of expertise on how important this is. And then you can see in May, we start to gain some momentum. And then June, July, August, which is historically slower months, not so with COVID, right? Maintain a pretty good, healthy, like prices were now up over $1 million in the, in the 416, which was amazing. Held, and then you saw in November, December, dropping, and then in January, again, a slowness, but look at that, January, February, another $100,000 jump. So these are right now I'm just working on my charts because that's something what I use. So to get, like when the client has this, opinion, and they do have opinions of what's going on, this kind of brings them back to reality.
What does this say, Mike? Kiki here, sorry. Like, what does this say? Like, what the overall message to the client that we don't know?
You're going to need an agent that understands timing.
Fabulous. Okay.
You're gonna need someone, like you might say, if, has any of the agents gone over this? Oh, no? Oh, wow, surprising, right? So again, it's gonna take you to a different level. And, like if you can even break down a neighborhood, and it's not like, if you start to break it down, you start to become the expert on what's going on. So, I mean, we're looking at April. Now, the thing is, I think even though we're in a downward shifting market, my understanding our prices are holding, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised by the end of May if our prices have dropped a bit.
Okay.
All right. So, okay, so we're going to go to the next slide. All right. Again, mindset. I cannot strengthen that enough of what you're going to need to do in this challenging market. Mind over market. All right. Your priorities are going to change moving forward. Your actions now on how you do business are going to change. So you want to start to look at that. You want to start to create an action plan of moving forward. Because now also your own expectations, do you know how like your own expectations are going to shape how successful you are. So that's something that you might want to look at, like what are your fears? What are you scared about? And how are you going to shape your results at the end of the day? How are you going to look at this market? Like for me, again, a shifting market to me is like, oh my gosh, what an opportunity. What an opportunity for expertise. Because I really felt like a bit of a commodity in that January, February, March. I mean, it didn't take rocket surgery to list and sell a home, did it? Right? So now it's going to take a lot of expertise in getting homes sold and having happy clients at the end of the day. And again, it's the old adage. I always say people, like when they're thinking like my client, I have to coach my clients all the time I have to ask them what their expectations are, or if they're in worry mode, right? And one of the things I asked them I said, so if you believe that's going to happen, what do you think is going to happen? They go, oh, that's going to happen. So if you join me in thinking we're going to get a good result, we're going to get you moved at the end of the day, and as long as it's enough money to get you from point A to point B, and your whole quality of lifestyle is better, isn't that the main goal? Because then you want to take them from this fictitious price that sold 6 or 8 weeks ago into their future. What is motivating them? Because as I said, people move for lifestyle ranges, or they move because they have to sell, divorce, right? So you've got to refocus them in not so much price, but on what it is they're trying to do. And you're going to help them do what they're trying to do. Okay, so we'll move to the next slide. Okay, we're back to accountability. All right, so is Cheryl and John on this call? Are they on, Angelique? Okay, now, Angelique, do they have it as part of do they bring accountability into their workshops?
I'm actually I'm not sure with the PC coaching. I imagine they do. That's usually part of the PC coaching program.
Yeah, so what I'd like everybody to look at is grabbing an accountability partner or a mastermind group or something, maybe as Keller Williams Advantage, we have a little contest around, because it's what I love about what Laura does with her team is they create some fun around it, right? Like we used to have, when we had like my mastermind break, my accountability team at one time was John Ferber, my brother Tim, and Lindsay Smith from Oshawa. And we were all selling about 100 houses a year. And this is going back 20, 25 years ago. But we had little things like, if you didn't get your numbers, you bought everybody lunch. So it was kind of a like, not a bad thing to do, right? So having an accountability partner is a sure way to guarantee your success. So without accountability, I mean, I always think that's why people left their corporate jobs, left their other jobs, because now you're actually your accountability partners yourself. And we know it doesn't work so well when you're accountability partners yourself. So that's going to be a key thing moving forward is what accountability have you set up moving forward into this new market? Okay. Okay, wait a minute. Track through it. Can you go back for just a second? Thanks. Like I had mentioned before, study your success and failure and what worked. So I started because I was not getting a high closing ratio. I started to study why my success and failure and what worked so I could put in corrections. Okay, we can now move on to the next slide. Okay, so again, lead generation. So really it's now upshifting your lead generation. So if you were doing an hour a day, you want to shift that to 2 hours a day. Because really what you want to do is you want to find more motivated people. You want to find people that are really, really committed to moving. And it just has to be is can they afford to move from point A to point B as opposed to my neighbor got that, I'm not moving unless I get that. So, so my challenge to everybody would be if you could speak to 10 people a day about real estate. How many people here speak to at least 10 people a day about 10 different people, not fellow agents, but real prospects out there, speak to 10 people a day? Okay. So that would be somewhere to start. It's like if you could speak to 10 people a day about real estate, so that's 50 people a week. That's like pretty, like, and then it would be the thing is, and if 10 is too much to bite off, let's go with 5 people. Or let's go with 2 people. How many? And then that's look back 6 months later and see what our results are from by speaking to X amount of people. So you can create little challenges. And, of course, we've got people that are going to do their online, social media, having success with that. I'm more along the branding and advertising. So I've not stopped my branding and advertising during this period. I've shifted up quite a few things. I've, created a newsletter that's grabbing, getting some traction. And what I'm missing in this COVID time is community involvement. It's something, I'm looking at is how do I get involved with the restaurants or takeout places or the dry cleaners, say right in the areas that I'm farming. So maybe I can do a Zoom interview or something to that effect. So that's one of the new things I'm working on. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so repeatable processes that allow us to duplicate our results. Who would like to take a shot at what that means? And if you don't know how to raise your hand, you can either just speak out and I'd love to hear from people on what that means to them.
Come on, someone.
Okay, Mike, why don't you take a shot at it? Okay,
Sure,
let me take a shot. Let me take a shot at this, Mike. So repeatable processes allow us to duplicate our results. So what Success Breed is doing the same thing week in, week out, month in, month out. So it's having a system. It's like, I'm going to speak to 10 people a day. I'm going to deliver 50 flyers in my farm area. I'm going to do this. So repeatable processes is what will guarantee your success. So first of all, you want to look at, do you have any repeatable processes? So that would be the first thing to look at. Because really what it is, it's like, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. So I'll give you an example. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, my print advertising was not drawing in the business. It was costing me money. And Candace harp's not a good word, encouraged me to start calling my past clients. And what was the problem is when I was calling them, my intent was to get business from them. So during COVID, I had this most amazing aha moment is for some reason when I was calling them, I was just generally interested in how their life was going during COVID. I didn't even talk business. Before, when I was calling them, my whole goal was to make 50 contacts. And I had my scripts, and then they could almost tell it was leading for me asking them for business. The shift for me was, I was really just asking to see how they were generally doing. How was it affecting their family? How was it affecting their business? What was different about their lives? Now, the difference was I was no longer doing 50, 60 contacts a week. I was down to like 18, 12. But the difference was we were talking 20, 25, 30 minutes, and they were suggesting at the end of the conversation how they could send me business. Like I'd never brought it up. And all of a sudden, everything shifted for me with my past clients. It was like I was just checking in to see how they were doing. So that was my big aha. Now, I did that consistently for about 2 years. So people, like, I'm having a good year. Now, am I having a good year because it just worked out? These are all calls I've been making for the last 2 years consistently that have paid off. So that's what I'm talking about, repeatable processes. All right. So we talk about customer service and checklists. Like, customer service to me has become even more important. I was talking to my accountant who lives in Fredericton, New Brunswick today. And he was saying, geez, Mike, I've got this big piece of land down there I'm developing. Could you take my listing and sell it out of Toronto? And I said, oh gosh, Greg, you know what I prefer to do is be in partnership with somebody down there, right? But what I did is I got a list of people from him on who in his marketplace he thinks would be good. And I'm going to do the interviewing process for him and partner up. But he says, oh, Mike, I want to make sure you get paid for this. And I said, oh yeah, I'll get, they'll give me a 25% referral. And he said, is that enough? I said, yeah, I think it would be fine. But I said, the key, Greg, here is we want to make sure that it's what's best for you, not what's best for me, but what's best for you, Greg. So one of my new streams of business, of course, is calling my clients that are all over Canada now and actually referring, like, do you have, if you were to sell or you have a family member, do they have a really good quality agent that's going to look after them? So it's a new stream of referral business for me. And what I said, so Greg, what's missing for you from these agents you're talking to? He says, oh, Mike, it's like for them to get back to me, like, I don't feel they're making me a priority. And so it's like asking your client, what's going to have you feel like you are my priority? It's asking questions like that so you understand, because what happens, he's talking to top agents that are super busy, but the problem is they appear super busy. So the translation is not, you've got all my attention. So that's areas where we're going to step it up, is areas of service and how they like to be communicated to and how accessible they want you. And when they reach out to you, what are their expectations and when you should get back to them? How often will you be staying in touch with them? And that's really the long term, because my biggest regret as a realtor was I was always focused on new business, And I've got, I've sold over 4,000 homes. And now when I look back, if I would have paid more attention to that past business, called up, checked in with them, not so much to like, have you got any business for me, but like, how are you doing? And I really think that human touch and that authentic caring is what's going to make the difference in your long-term success. All right, so we're going to move to the next slide for time. Okay. All right, we're looking at how to effectively communicate with buyers and sellers and why they should buy or sell. So that is almost a conversation itself, is how do we effectively communicate with our clients right now in this new market? It's the big thing is, how are you going to stand out as the expert or the authority? Here's something else I want everybody to write down is, what is your value proposition? What is it that you bring different? What do you bring different in this new market? What is all the other agents going to be telling them? What are you going to bring to this market? What is your value proposition? And it should be something that's pretty distinct, pretty clear. So I got just a great question from Sue Ann Fango. Mike, what is your value proposition? So I've got a new one. My new value proposition is negotiation. That I am probably what I stand out in is negotiating. I negotiate higher prices for my client. So that's where I build my value proposition around. And where I back that up, Sue, is I talk about, like yesterday, how we had, by following up with agents, that we were able to get an agent with no competition to pay close to $200,000 over the asking with no competition. Now, not only when they brought that initial price in, which was a big relief to my client, we're able to negotiate another $20,000 on top of that. So that's what I mean by, negotiating. That's where, like, I tell them, actually, nobody wants to talk about commissions. I say, I am going to cover your commissions and then some. So I address it head on. So negotiation, and actually my new billboard out there says it's hire a great negotiator. So that's what I've gone with my new brand, is hire a great negotiator, because I don't think anybody else is really. I know, Sue, I know you've taken a negotiation course, and it's something that you're looking at, and I think you do a great job with buyers. So that, in fact, is mine. And I got Joanna says, yes, I've seen your new sign. So I'm now getting calls off that new branding. So that's because I'm always like thinking about value proposition. What is the one thing that you bring that no other agent brings? Okay. Okay, buyers and sellers, they're bringing the experts that you must handle. So right now you want to be making lists of all the objections you think you're going to hear from a seller before you go in there, and be prepared, because it's going to be new objections. Or when you're in there, some of them are going to all be the same, and which all comes down is, why are they going to pay you 5%? And how are you going to show that you're worth it? You deserve it. Let me see what here. And so here, common objections. I'm going to wait till the market improves. Does anybody know how to handle that objection? So here's how I handle that objection. I said, you know what? You can always wait till the market improves. So if we look at 2017, when the government stepped in, and I hear they're stepping in again, but of course, with this market correction, maybe they won't. Let's see, last time it took a year, I think prices dropped about 10%. And then it took, I think, another year to bring it up to the same prices. So that's 2 years. And then we saw 2020. So yeah, 3 years. Yeah. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if 3 years is working for you, that's, go for it. I don't want to sell your house just for the sake of it. If 3 years working for you, waiting till the market improves, awesome. I'll be still around. That handles that. Also, when I'm, in an offer presentation and, oh, we wanted more money. And like, what is the alternative? Well, the alternative is, if you can wait 2 or 3 years, no problem. If that works for you, awesome. So I'm losing money, lower your rate. Again, where your value proposition comes. Need more advertising. Should I buy or sell first? Should I buy or sell first is a loaded one right now. Because I have clients just telling me now, oh, we're going to go buy, and which was popular right now. I'm now going to prepare them that, I might get less for their home by the time they buy than what I could get them right now. And that's something I got to discuss with them. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, so pre-qualifying again is never been more important than other. And this is one of my new pre-qual. Can we go to the next slide? I think it's got my pre-qual sheet. So you probably can't see this, but if you want one, Elizabeth can get it. What I've added, one question I've added is, do you know what's happening with the market right now? That's what I have added. So I am discussing that up front. So that's my new one. Like I said, do you know what's happening in the market right now? And some are going to say, yeah, it's booming out there, but most now are becoming aware that it's a shifting market. All right. So move back to the previous slide. Number 11, was it? Yeah. So right now you want to really you want to get so deep into what's motivating them. You don't want to like, oh, we're moving to Kingston and, it'd be great. And it's like, okay, why are you moving to Kingston? We've had some friends that move that way. And so right now it's nurturing and getting them invested on why they're moving, not the price, but it's investing in them, why they're doing this. Because like they forget, they get like pig-headed. They get like, I don't know, it's like moving is really a lifestyle decision. And the question is, if you get X and you sell for Y, can you move? It's really as simple as that. But what we see is a lot of greed out there, which in fact is stopping people from moving. Our job is to help them move and live into their dreams and lifestyle. That's our job. So establishing asking price. Well, right now, I'm getting some resistance where people go, oh, I think we should just put it at where it should be at. I'm not bought into that yet. I'm going to, for the time being, stick with a low asking price, maybe even lower, and till that no longer works, because I got to get eyes in the house. And to me, if I got 35, 40 sets of people through and we've got one offer, but I'm going to talk about, we may have one offer, and I'm going to talk to them now about what are you going to do? So like I'm like, at what point now does it not make sense for you to move? At what price can't you afford to move? Great question to ask them. At what price doesn't work for you? Okay, and we move to the next slide. Okay, one more. So again, seller's motive. Yeah, we did that one. So again, I'm redoing my CMA presentation. So now it's going to be called, I'm actually going to rename stuff. So it's going to be called I'm going to have now a shift value proposition. I'm going to have a shift marketing plan, right? And why am I going to do that? Because that's where we're going, and I need to educate my clients. So, and what the difference will be, I'm going to have a lot more graphs. I'm going to analyze, I'm going to try to get like pricing, what things were selling 1 month ago. I'm trying to get them so they could, the key for me is to get them to see for themselves, not me tell them. It's so they can see for themselves where we're going. And they may not like it, but then it comes right down to, if you get X and you purchase Y, Does that get you where it needs to be? I can't, I know I can't deal. It's like the stock market. Yeah, if you would have sold last month, you would have, but life just doesn't work that way. And your alternative is if you're okay living where you are for the next 2-3 years and you're comfortable, that's awesome. It's as simple as that. So adding pricing graphs. Okay, we can go to the next slide, please. So now we're going to have different conversations about price. This is going to be really fascinating about price and how we determine how buyers determine value. So this is an old slide from like, I don't know, 10 years ago that I'm now going to replace into my CMA. So I'm now going to talk to the sellers about, when they bought their home, how did they establish value? What a great question to ask them. Now, who would like to take a stab at this? Who would like to volunteer when they bought their home? How did they establish value? I need a volunteer for this one.
I'll volunteer for you, Mike.
Okay, who's that talking?
Shannon.
All right, Shannon. All right. Oh, Laura Shannon Higgins. Okay, so Laura.
Yes.
When you buy your home, how did you establish value?
Well, I've been looking at a lot of different homes, and this one was in the best location and offered all the things we were looking for. Most of the things we were looking for.
Okay, great. How many homes did you look at?
100.
Huh? Hundreds. Well, I'm glad I wasn't your buyer agent at the time. And so were you comparing homes?
Yeah, we were comparing this home, and we actually looked at this home, and then it took us some time before we ended up eventually offering on it. Times were a bit different then.
So you established value on what other homes were offering?
Yes.
And that's how you establish value?
Yes.
Did you establish value by what a house sold for 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, for sure. We looked at other homes in the area that had sold, and we valued this based on what those had sold for.
Yeah. Now, if you loved this house, Laura, was the type of thing, if you loved it, you would pay what it takes to get it?
To an extent.
Or were you more objective than you were emotional?
No, I was probably pretty emotional at the time, but I also probably, financially was a bit objective in terms of I wouldn't have paid an unlimited amount of money for the home, no.
Right. So, but basically you looked at other comparable homes, right? And what they had sold for.
Mm-hmm.
And so you sort of really, by comparison shopping is how you worked it out, right?
Yes.
So when we put your home up now for Laura, a lot is going to be determined by what else is up on the market, right?
I would agree, yes.
And what they're taking for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably, and of course, Laura, we've established that the market is shifting down, right?
Yes, but I have a really lovely kitchen, Mike. Much nicer than some others.
Beautiful kitchen. Look what you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, would you prefer to stay, Laura?
No, I think we need a bigger yard.
Okay. So is the yard more important than your beautiful kitchen right now?
Yes, I would say it is. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, great. So that's really what's driving, and that's what's good. Now, what's important about the yard, Laura?
Well, we have some chickens that we need a place to put.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, great.
Yeah.
So
and just some more space for privacy. With COVID, we've spent a lot of time at home.
Yeah. So on your next home, they might have a nice kitchen, but if they have a great yard, it might be the yard that does it, right?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
So Laura, it really is. It's kind of the personal choice by the buyer that drives it, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
Not so much what you think, even though you have a beautiful home.
True.
Yeah, great. Okay, super. So what we've got to be careful is, like, when we go to market, that someone else doesn't come out at a lower price, or we get ahead of the market. I think the key, Laura, is right now is we want to get ahead of a shifting market, don't we?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And Laura, how soon do you think we could sort of go into action on that plan?
Well, I think if the market's shifting downward, I think we should do it as soon as possible.
Awesome. Great. Let's get started. So this is a new slide. So can you see, Laura, that you can kind of work with this?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Do you see how this creates conversation? So now we need way different conversations than when we've been having. Way different. And, you know, I would say go out and have fun with it. You know, it could go good, it could go bad, you know, but have a little fun with it. Okay. When you choose your price, you choose your competition. So true. Okay, we go to the next slide. So this is one of my favorites. Everybody's seen this one, haven't they? Does anybody use this in their presentation? Great. So even more importantly now, right, is that we, in a shifting market, we have to be even more competitive in our pricing. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever, I really wonder if we'll ever see prices go back. So if it's a 1.2 million home, would we price it just under 1.2? I don't know if that's going to happen. So this is a graph that we use because what we're going to see is we're going to have homes in the green area in the market that are all priced competitively. But we know the home that's going to probably sell first is the one that's in a little bit below that market value. So this is just an example of one of the graphs, and we'll be updating our graphs, of course, going into this new shift. Okay, we can move on to the next one. Did we skip one? So my current value proposition is negotiating. That what I do extremely well. And Sue, with your question, I use about 4 or 5 examples of why I'm a good negotiator. Now, on top of that, Sue, I actually give them the house I sold, the person's name, their phone number, and the email, and I tell them, you should call these people. And now what I'm getting, I'm having everybody now go on Google and give me Google reviews. And so now I give them 3 examples of how I get an extra 40,000 there. I get an extra, Sundays I said, I just got an extra 12,000, you know, so I'm using examples and I'm having to, like, I said, that's really where my value is I'm going to get you more money for your house. So I tell stories. So I'm a storyteller. And if you don't have any story to tell other people's stories, tell other agents' stories of what happened. So you've got to be talking to other agents right now. You want to, like, for me, I'm talking to all my competition. They're happy to talk with me, and we're all trying to figure out the shift and what to do. So you've got to talk to other agents. Got to talk to buyer agents, got to talk to seller agents when you're doing. If you're going on a listing present, call somebody up. How you're doing this, all right? Big key, you got to know a seller's expectation. That's going to be a series of not average questions. You've got to get questions that go 3 levels deep onto what their motivation is. So they tell you why they want to move. You're going to ask them 3 more questions why that's important. We want to, move out here. And then why is that? And what would you enjoy? So what's going to be so enjoyable once you get there? So you want to go really bore down on their motivation because that's going to overcome the shift in price. So you've got to get a little bit more creative. You've got to go over and above of what we did before. So I think we have one more slide. Oh, and we're already past our time. I apologize. So I'm going to end this with, are you willing to do whatever it takes to succeed? So this is a great question. Are you willing? Some of you will, some of you won't. Both are okay. Any final questions at all before we finish?
Feel free to unmute yourself and just call them out.
Yeah.
That was great, Mike. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
You're welcome, Barb.
Sorry,
So,
was that Salima that had a question?
Yeah, so just gonna ask, so with what you just said now, and I know you said that before as well, with asking more questions. What if it's a situation that is a little bit more personal to their family and they don't want to go too deep in it? Like they'll share some, but not everything.
Okay, you could ask them, are you reluctant to tell me everything? Is that could be one question. You know, is there some reasons? Is there some things you don't want anybody to know? Is there some privacy things, right? But I find when I have people that don't open up and really, it's either I'm not asking the questions very good because they feel like they're on the spot. But for me to create success is I've got to have that trust and relationship with the client. Now, that, you know, as I said, that to me is key. They don't always do it, but my goal is to really get under. Like the key is I really want to know what are the benefits for them move? Why do they want to move?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
One more question. I've been in a situation that there's 4 people basically involved in terms of it's a family, but 4 of them are more like making the decisions together. However, only 2 is on title. Is that a situation where you and 3 of them are kind of like in agreement with me and a lot of things that I show them and educate them, but the one is not? Is that and that's a person that is still involved in the decision making, but it's not he's not on title? Is that something? Is there anything you can advise on that?
Well, you could ask, you know, their permission. Do you mind if I just did a sale where there was 4 siblings involved. One was the estate trustee, who was the final decision maker. There was one other influencer in the family that I had to pay attention to. And then I had 2 silent partners that I felt were, their opinion was either important, or I would ask permission, or I would say, I might say to the principal person making the decision, like, you know, who, you know, just out of curiosity, when you're making this big decision, is it like between 2 of you? Do you discuss it with all 4? Are you getting any resistance from other family members? So you want to me, again, I want to dig a little deeper on how important this all is, because what I'm finding is it's the silent person that sort of, you know, stops me from being successful, because I don't know what the real objections are or how realistic their objections are. So you might get permission to speak to them or find out just who really are the final. Is there anybody else that you go to that you bounce things off of for your final decision? Because you probably want to talk to them as well.
Okay. They were, just to give you a little background, they were present at the meetings that I did with them, which was basically 2 really long meetings. But they were there, but they were not showing a lot of interest in terms of when I showed them things that were selling and, you know, things that are in the market. So this was more like a pricing strategy meeting.
Yeah, I would say ask some more questions. Maybe pricing's not important to them. Maybe you haven't really got to the gist of what is important to them, because sometimes as realtors and salespeople, we talk at them. You're gonna probably need to work on asking better questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, listen, I'm going to thank everybody. This is going to be a fascinating market. Just as I delved into it, I thought, oh my gosh, there's so much here. There's so, you know, many things to prepare for. And so the key ones, of course, is our mindset, accountability, right? And lead generation. And so I'll really going to look forward to hear. Please share your stories if any of this was helpful, or what you are implementing, or what new systems you're putting together in this shifting market. So, and of course, I'm always available If you have questions, you need coaching, I'm always available.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. And we've had a lot of comments in the chat. Thank you for your session. Joanna said, thank you, Mike. Your training is always so amazing. She can't wait to meet you in person.
Can't we all? Well, you're very welcome, guys. As I said, I love to contribute. I like to make a difference for people. So don't be scared to lean on me or ask me questions. I'm never too busy.
Thanks, Mikey.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
Go out there and get them. Go out there and shift them.
Anybody wants a pre-qualification sheet, just email me.
Yeah,
I'll send it off to
Elizabeth
you.
at mikeclarke.com.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and
Awesome.
start working on great questions daily. Just start thinking about really great questions. Ask your friends what great questions are. Ask your husband, your wife. Ask everybody what a great question would be to ask people right today. You might come up with some cool stuff. Guys, ciao Benny.
Awesome. Enjoy your boat.
Have a great holiday weekend coming up. Get your bug spray on and enjoy.
For sure. Take care.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
everyone. Take care.